guys, and welcome to One More Page, a podcast for lovers of kids' books.
Packed full of interviews, book reviews and industry gossip, not to mention the occasional fart joke, One More Page is your fortnightly foray into the world of children's books.
Whether you're a kid, mum, dad, author, illustrator, teacher, librarian, or just one of those people who never grew up, this is the podcast for you. So, let's meet your hosts.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a writer and kids' book fanatic with a special love of any story where a kid discovers they have a superpower. Mostly because I'm kind of hoping this will be me one day.
Hi, I'm Liz, and libraries, bookshops and cafes are my happy places. I'm obsessed with kids' books and eating anything with Nutella in it.
And I'm Nat, and I have a serious Peter Pan complex. I still climb trees, I still find underpants hilarious, and I still get in trouble from my mum on a regular basis. Hi, Mum! Pretty sure I'll get in trouble for that. And this is...
One More Page!
So this is it, guys. It's our very first episode.
Yay! All right, that's enough enthusiasm. Kate, what do we have coming up on the show?
All right, so this episode we will be speaking with Catherine Pelosi, whose debut middle grade novel Quark's Academy is out this month. We'll also be having a chat with the students of Waitara Public School about Heidi McKinnon's hilarious picture book, I Just Ate My Friend. So let's get stuck into it.
Yep, straight into it. All right, well, normally this is the place where all the fancy podcasts plug all their fancy sponsors and throw in some advertising and stuff. But seeing as no one is giving us any money to do this because it's all for the love, we're going to use these 30 seconds to plug something just because we think it's really, 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 really awesome. So, Liz, what are you giving a shout out to?
So today I'd like to give a shout out to some of Australia's specialty kids bookshops. When I was last in Melbourne, I went to the Younger Son in Yarraville for the first time and I loved it. It was so well curated. Then in Sydney, there's the Children's Bookshop in Beecroft, which is amazing. And in Brisbane's West End, there's Where the Wild Things Are. It's really worth supporting these businesses and I love how they're more than just a shop. They're like a hub for book launches, author signings, and they host kids' book clubs as well. We'll put links to these in the show notes and we'd love for you to get in touch if you've got a great local bookshop to recommend for a future shout out.
I really love that one in Beecroft. It's one of my favourite bookstores. It's so cool how they've got that upstairs event space and they have like heaps of book launches and kids author talks and cool stuff like that. And you can take the kiddlywinks along to listen to their favourite authors. So if you're in Sydney, highly recommend it. You should go check it out.
Awesome. All right, well, the next section in our podcast is our author interview section. So this is one of the most exciting things for us in doing One More Page. We get to knock on a whole lot of doors and ask authors, illustrators, and all sorts of people in the book industry to come on the show and have a chat with us.
And the best part is most of them say yes.
That is also excellent.
Because when we first started, we were a bit worried that might not be the case. But apparently we're not as scary as we thought we were. So this week, we're really excited because we have our very first guest of our very first episode. In case you're not getting it, we have a firsts theme. So, Liz, who are we chatting to this week?
So today we're lucky enough to have first-time author Catherine Pelosi on the show. Catherine's a Sydney-based writer of children's books and she also writes for companies and magazines and she loves animals and travel. Her debut middle-grade novel Quark's Academy was just released with Hachette Australia in January and she has a few more books to follow. A big One More Page welcome to Catherine.
Yeah!
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Liz.
Thanks for joining us today at One More Page.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We've got you on our show today because you're a first-time author and your very first book has just come out. And this is our first episode. So I was wondering if you can tell us a bit about your new book, Quark's Academy, what it's about and what kind of age group it's for.
Yeah, sure. So Quark's Academy is a middle grade novel. So it's for those around 9 to 12 years of age. And it's about 3 science whiz kids, Augustine, Celeste and Oscar. And they've been accepted to spend a week at a very elite science academy. And they're going to compete in this best invention competition. But as the week goes on, they start to realise that things at the academy aren't quite what they seem to be. So I would say it's for anyone who likes a fast-paced story that's full of inventions and fun science.
Sounds so good. Very exciting. So I was also wondering how you first came up with the idea for the story. I did read that you were doing an astronomy course when it first gave you the idea for a science story. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I did. I've done a few courses at the Sydney Observatory, which is such a cool place. Like for anyone who's been there, they'll totally know it. This old sandstone building and it has this big old dome with a giant telescope in there. It's very atmospheric. So it was a great setting, and it sort of sparked the idea. But it was during one of the classes I had this professor who had created like a 3D animated planet show. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was so cool. We put like these 3D glasses on, and there were planets popping out in every direction. And obviously, like, I just left so inspired, and it just got me thinking about what would it be like to go to a place where you study science every day and you have the opportunity to create inventions. So it was that experience that got the idea going. And then actually at the same time, I was looking after a friend's cat, and it was this huge British short hair, which, if anyone knows, they're like practically blue fur, and they're huge, and they've got these big yellow eyes. And I had only been looking after it for, I think, less than a day. And I came home and I could not find it anywhere, which sounds very strange because it's huge. You couldn't miss it. But I was racing, running around my apartment, looking at every nook and cranny, and it was nowhere. And I was obviously freaking out and starting to think of my story to tell my friend where I've lost their cat. But and I went into the kitchen, and I was just leaning back on the bench, and I looked up, and there it was, practically like on the highest shelf in the kitchen. It was so close to the ceiling, just looking down at me, very smug and smiling. And I had to laugh because it was sort of like too good. I was like, you have to be a character. So that was what gave me the inspiration for Copernicus, who's the resident cat at Quarks Academy. So it was those two experiences that sort of got the ball rolling. And then once I started writing, it just sort of went on from there.
Oh, I love that. That sounds amazing. So I was also, besides the cat, I was wondering about your own life and experiences and personality, and how that has kind of been incorporated into the book, and whether any of the characters are anything like you. And if so, which character?
Well, so there's three main characters. There's Augustine, Celeste, and Oscar. So Augustine's like the hopeful, very optimistic one who has lots of ideas, and she's a bit stubborn. I think I'm probably a little bit like that in some ways. And then there's Celeste, who's very organised and focused, and she's a high achiever. And then Oscar's the little bit more of a rule breaker. It can be a little bit mischievous at times. So I probably have elements of all of them, but I started writing Augustine first, and she seemed to be the one that was just, I don't know, easiest to write. Her character really just came to life very easily. So I would probably say I identify mostly with Augustine. And we both have curly hair.
And I was also interested in your thoughts on writing female characters in a science-based story for kids, and how important it was for you to have female characters.
Yeah, so when I started writing it, my main priority was to create characters who love science, and I wanted them to use their skills and their knowledge with science to solve problems and get them out of sticky situations if they needed. And then I suppose for me, like Augustine, Celeste, they came quite naturally. I don't know how conscious I was of the fact they were female or male, but I just wanted characters who were strong and empowering but loved science. But saying that, I definitely think it's important to have female characters in a diverse range of settings, including science. So yeah, for sure, it's important.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of kids' books out there about science, especially not with female inventors. So it's very exciting. And I do love the sound of the inventions that the three characters come up with. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit about their inventions and how you thought of the ideas for them.
Yeah, sure. So with the inventions, I mean, there is so much scope. I could, come up with all sorts of crazy inventive things, but what was really important was each of their inventions were connected to their personalities and aligned with their goals. So for example, Augustine loves the weather and she loves planets, so she wants to build a weather maker, which is a machine where she can use a compass and make it rain where she wants it rain, or snow or sunshine. So obviously that would be a very cool device to have, but she also wants to do it because she's a really giving person and she's kind-hearted, and she hopes that she'll be able to help people who might be, for example, experiencing floods or droughts. So yeah, and then with Celeste, she is creating a time machine, and would obviously advance science. And as she's the high achiever, of course, she's trying to go for the hardest thing ever. But she also has a few regrets and things that have happened in the past that if she could go back and change, she would. So she has a couple of motivations of why she's creating a time machine. And then lastly, Oscar. He's a little bit different of the three, being the rule breaker and a bit cheeky. He's got this really awesome knack for combining revolting smells. So things like wet dog and 12 all-day socks. So he puts these gross concoctions together to create stink bombs. And he's very, very crafty at how he uses them. So, yeah, and then there's 15 students at the Academy, and they all have different inventions that they're creating for the competition. So lots of other fun and different things throughout the book.
So I'm wondering who your influences are in terms of what kind of books you liked when you were growing up and who some of your favourite authors were.
Oh, so many. I loved all the Roald Dahl books and Paul Jennings, a lot of Paul Jennings when I was growing up, Judy Blume. My favourite book was called A Necklace of Raindrops. I don't know if anyone knows it, by Joan Aiken. She's a brilliant writer, but that was one I went to revisit all the time. So many.
And what about current kids' books? Is there anything you've read recently that you could recommend to our listeners?
I just finished Raymie Nightingale by Kate DiCamillo, which I adored. I think it's brilliant. And I heard someone describe it as Stand By Me, the movie, but for girls, which I thought was a very accurate description. Yeah, it's such a beautiful book. I love her writing. And now I've just started A.L. Tate's Book of Secrets, which I'm really enjoying. I'm totally gripped. I'm very excited to see what happens in that one.
Oh, wow. That is so funny. That is actually what I'm reading right now. I'm halfway through.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you go.
I'm loving it as well. It's really cool. I'm also wondering, I think some of the kids listening today could perhaps be writers themselves and wanting to write their own books. So I'm wondering if you have any advice you can give them on writing.
Yeah, sure. I would say I think the most important thing is to write what you love and just don't worry about what anyone thinks or what sort of stories you think someone else might prefer. You've really got to write what you enjoy. And that's what I've always done. And I think it really comes through in your writing. If you're really into the story and you're loving every little bit of it, your writing will be that much better for it. So yeah, stay true to what you want to write. And I always just write what I would like to read. And I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. So I was wondering as well about other things you've got coming up. I hear that you've got a picture book coming out later in the year and maybe a few other projects. So I'm wondering if you can share anything with our listeners.
I do. I have a picture book called Something for Fleur, which is due in August. And that's a fun book about a flamingo and a hippo and their friendship. It's lots of fun. And I have another one called Meet the Maniacs, which is for slightly younger than Quarks. It's sort of about 8 to 10 age bracket. And it's about a young girl, Lolly, who's trying to sort of find her place in her family. And it's a really funny one. It's lots and lots of action. It's about family and Vikings and friendship as well.
I love that title as well, Meet the Maniacs. It's really fun.
Yes. Well, there's some funny, crazy characters in there.
Well, I can't wait for that to come out. So before we finish up, I'm wondering if you are ready for our fun 5 questions that we like to ask our guests.
I'm ready.
Favourite kids' book character of all time?
That's hard. Actually, Matilda from Roald Dahl's Matilda, because she's clever and determined.
And do you dog ear your pages or do you use a bookmark?
I really try and use a bookmark. Often they're like receipts or a piece of paper or something like that. I'm not very good, but I do try not to dog ear. I know it's no good.
Favourite ice cream flavour?
I like Hokey Pokey.
Oh, cute. Last book you read?
That's Raymie Nightingale by Kate DiCamillo. Highly recommend it.
And I think I might know the answer to this after hearing your earlier story about the cat. Are you a dog or a cat person and why?
Oh, yeah, I do love cats. I'm a cat person. I'm a cat lady. Just because they're very loving, but you have to work for their affection, which, it can be a bit annoying, but I like that too because they're selective.
Yeah, it's interesting. So many cat people say that.
They're funny little characters, but yes, I love all animals, but yes, cats. I've always had cats.
Bit more mysterious maybe than dogs.
Yes, this is true.
Okay, well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Before you go, is there anywhere our listeners can find you online? Like, do you have a website?
I do. It's Catherine Pelosi, CatherinePelosi.com. and I'm on Twitter and Facebook. So you can find links to my social media on my website.
All right, and we'll put those in our podcast show notes as well, so you can find Catherine and find out more about her books. So thank you so much again for being our first guest on One More Page, and we'll talk to you later, Catherine.
Thanks, Liz, and I'm very honoured to be the first guest. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, bye.
Bye.
That was a great interview, Liz. I bet you really enjoyed speaking to Catherine.
Yeah, I did. It was great. I really loved hearing all the stories behind her characters and their inventions. And I also liked talking about her real-life experiences that influenced the book.
Yeah, like the cat sitting. I've done a house sit and a cat sit before, but my cat didn't inspire me to write a book, so it must have been a pretty lame cat. Oh no, what if the people are listening? I'm sorry, your cat's not lame. I take it back. Anyway, on One More Page, we're lucky enough to have a guest interview every week. So, Kate, who are you talking to next week?
So next episode, I'll be talking to Nikki Johnston. She's an author-illustrator, and she's recently illustrated The Fix-It Man by Dimity Powell, Grandma Forgets by Paul Russell, and Where's Bear by Sarah Elliott. So obviously she's very busy with all these books coming out, and I was really excited that she could make time for us. So that's something to look forward to for next week.
Yay, illustrators! I love illustrators because they can do something that I totally 100% cannot do. I can't draw to save myself.
I'm with you. Absolutely.
Okay, so now it's time for our next regular segment, and it's called What You're Reading. So this is where we each discuss a kid's book we've read and loved recently. What have you been reading, Nat?
So I've just finished reading the first book of the Truly Tan series by Jen Storer, illustrated by Claire Robertson and published by ABC Books. So for those of you guys who are a fan of the Clarice Bean series, do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah, I love Clarice Bean.
Yeah, well, you're going to truly love Truly Tan. She's a sassy, good-hearted kid with a talent for solving mysteries. She's the youngest of 4 sisters, and Tan moves from the city to the countryside with her family. After a few teething problems, she makes some friends and, most importantly, finds a mystery to solve. But not just any mystery. A haunting. Ooh. Scary, huh? Yeah, it's modern and funny, and Tan has just the right amount of attitude to spice things up. The book also has some interactive elements, such as Tan's definition of big words, and there's a quiz at the end to see if you're paying attention and if you have a detective's mind. And best of all, if you love it like I did, then there's 5 more out there, and I believe number 7 is coming out soon, so keep your eye out for Truly Tan Baffled.
Yeah, I love Truly Tan as well. My daughter's actually a big Truly Tan fan, and she actually went dressed as her for Book Week this year.
Oh,
so that was, it was so cute. And she carried a little copy of Truly Tan with her in the book parade, and and lots of her friends are into it as well. So I know it's a huge hit with girls around that sort of 8, 9, 10 kind of age, maybe in year 3, year 4.
So you mean the same maturity level as me?
Exactly.
Oh, that's why I
I'll
like
arrange
it so
a play
much.
date. You can have a play date one day.
Play date, yay!
Yay! So what about you, Kate? What have you been reading lately?
Well, I've been reading The Fall by Tristan Banks, which was published by Random House Australia. It's a middle-grade crime thriller about a boy who's staying with his estranged father while he recovers from an operation. One night, he hears an argument in an upstairs flat, and when he looks outside, he sees someone fall 6 stories to the ground. But did he fall, or was he pushed?
I don't know, was he?
I can't tell you.
Oh.
You have to read the book.
Oh.
So Sam, the protagonist, goes to wake his father, and then, he finds his father is missing. Yeah, and to make matters worse, somebody knows what Sam's seen. How scary is that?
Ooh. It's like this is like a scary episode. It's not Halloween, guys. It's only February.
So there is no haunting, just to make this absolutely clear. But it's a great crime novel. I read a lot of adult crime, and this reads just like that, which I really like. Tristan Banks doesn't write down to kids. He just writes a great story, which is fantastic. From a parental point of view, don't worry, there's nothing inappropriate aside from the odd dead body, but I feel that's a minor detail. So a great read for ages 10 and up.
Awesome. Love Tristan Banks. I don't think I've ever read anything of his that I don't like, so I have to give The Fall a whirl.
Yeah, I haven't actually read, because he does a lot of comedy type funny books, which I haven't read, but I do really like his kind of more thrillery type books. Yeah.
Cool. And Liz, what about you? What have you just read?
Well, I've just read a really great picture book called Once Upon a Small Rhinoceros. It's published by Walker Books Australia and it's written by Meg McKinley and it's illustrated by Layla Rudge. It's about a little rhino who dreams of exploring the world. The older rhinos don't understand and they try to discourage her by saying they've got everything they already need where they are. But the little rhino knows there's got to be more out there and she's really determined, so she builds her own boat and sails away. I don't want to ruin the ending for you, but it's super inspiring and I think it's one of those picture books that people of all ages can get something out of.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, wait. That's not a scary one. I take that back. How do you do it backwards? Ooh. That was me taking it back.
I've actually read that one too and really enjoyed it. Meg McKinley is a really prolific author who does all sorts of stuff, doesn't she, over all sorts of age ranges. Yeah. And I've really enjoyed everything that I've read by her.
Yeah, me too. I've also loved, there's one called No Bears that's actually the same team, Meg McKinley and Layla Rudge. That's great as well. So it seems like it's a really great author-illustrator pairing. So anything of theirs I'd suggest looking out for in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, talking about great books, it's time to sit up and pay attention because it's competition time! So we have an awesome book pack for you this episode. Not only are we giving away a copy of Catherine Pelosi's debut novel, Quark's Academy, but we also have the first 4 books in the Chronicles of Jack McCool series by R.E. Devine. And, of course, the picture book, I Just Ate My Friend by Heidi McKinnon, which features in our upcoming segment of Kids Capers. Hold in there, kids, we're nearly there. So, Kate, we've heard a little bit about Quark's Academy already, but can you tell us a bit about the Chronicles of Jack McCool?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really great series for middle grade readers. And for a bit of background, when R.E. Devine wrote this story, she was inspired by her 3 sons, who all have ADHD. So she wanted to write a book, firstly, that would appeal to her sons and children like them, but also that would feature a character like a hero, a really strong hero with ADHD. And so Jack McCool was born. So in the first book, Jack stumbles across a dusty old trunk in his attic and ends up being transported back in time, where he travels the world to solve the secrets of the magical amulet of Athlone. And I think there's going to be 6 books in the series. So, check it out.
Excellent.
Or win it on our show.
Even better.
Even better.
Sounds great. So, guys, if you would like to enter, go to onemorepagepodcast.com/win and tell us in 25 words or less what you would invent if you could invent anything in the world, just like the kids in Catherine Pelosi's Quark's Academy. We can't wait to see what you come up with, so get your entries in by the 16th of February.
Cool. I'm in.
Yes. Well, and we were actually just earlier having a talk about getting married and changing your last name, and I said that I would never, ever do it, but if I married Jack McCool...
Nat McCool.
Yeah. Can you imagine Nat McCool?
Nat McCool would be pretty
You know
cool.
what? I just might do it anyway.
You know, the tragic thing is the character Jack in this book, he hates his surname.
How can he hate his... That's like being called, like, Nat McAwesomeness.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those names you really have to be able to live up to. So
I
he
could
gets
do that.
Nat's like, I totally would.
Jack McNotcool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, leave Jack alone. All right, well, that's enough with all your boring grown-up talk. Now, the part all you kids have been waiting for. That's right. Turn up the volume, eat all the cookies, and dance like nobody's watching, because it's time for... Kids Capers!
This is really exciting. So this is the part of our show that's especially for kids and by kids. We're going to have kids reviewing books, interviewing authors, and sometimes even magically transforming into their favourite book characters. So what have you got for us this week, Nat?
Okay, guys, so for today's episode of Kids Capers, the segment where the adults don't matter and the kids call the shots. Sorry, mums and dads. I was lucky enough to be put in touch with the world's greatest librarian. Her name is Michelle Bradley, aka her super secret alias, Ms. Bradley. She works at Waitara Public School and managed to wrangle me 6 kids to review Heidi McKinnon's picture book, I Just Ate My Friend, published by Allen & Unwin. For those of you who may have seen our bloopers video on our Facebook page, it was a hilarious day full of super silliness, but I did actually manage to sit down and have a good chat with these kids to see what they thought about Heidi's extremely hilarious book. Let's see what they had to say. Spoiler alert. I should mention that this episode of Kids Capers does talk about how the book ends. So if you hadn't read the book and you don't want the ending to be spoiled, now's the time to stick your fingers in your ears. Alright, so I'm here at Waitara Public with Aisha, Vikram, Jonty, Cindy, Rudiman and Annabelle to talk about Heidi McKinnon's book, I Just Ate My Friend. Hello, nice to have you here today on the interview. What's your name?
Aisha,
Aisha.
pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you too. It's lovely to have you here today. It's lovely to be here today is what you're supposed to
Yes.
say. We're here today to talk about something very important.
Yeah.
What's this?
I just ate my friend a book.
It is a book. Have you seen one of these books before, have you? They
No.
open up, they've got pages inside.
Yeah, I've seen them.
What is this book about?
Eating your friends.
Why did he eat his friend?
Don't know.
Is that the big mystery of this book?
Yes.
So it's about a yellow alien. He ate his friend, so he's looking for other friends.
He asks a little bug to be his friend, but the bug says he's too big. It's about a monster who accidentally ate his friend after he went through a whole forest of other little bugs and creatures. He bumped into that green monster, and the monster said that he'd be his friend. Then the monster ate him by accident.
Oh, there's a lot of accidental eating of friends going on in this planet, isn't there? How do you think he accidentally ate his friend?
I think it's because he was hungry and he couldn't control his hunger.
Yeah. Do you sometimes get hungry and eat your friends accidentally?
No.
No. What do you do when you get hungry?
I just go to my lunchbox and find something to eat. I had some seaweed, I had a banana, and I also had some bread from Bread Top.
What was your favourite part of the book?
When he found his new friend.
The favorite part was the black monster. Roar! Roar! Roar!
One more time with the rah.
Roar!
So, do you think that the yellow monster in this book is a good friend?
Not really.
Why not?
Because he ate his friend, and why would you eat your friend?
Is that not a very nice thing to do?
No.
No. What should you do if you want to be a good friend?
Don't eat your friends and respect your friends.
And a good way to respect your friends is to start off by not eating them, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think that the yellow monster is a good friend?
No, because he ate his first best friend.
Do you think he learned his lesson?
By being eaten.
It's a pretty good way to learn a lesson, isn't it? So, what can you do to be a good friend?
Don't be mean to your friends. Be kind, don't make fun of them.
Care for them, help them, and never eat them.
You can take care of them, not eat them.
What do good friends do?
They care about each other. They play each other. And they help each other.
When you help others when they're upset,
So, if your friend was crying, what would you do?
I cheer them up.
How would you do that?
I'd try and ask them what was wrong, and if they told me, I'd tell them about times when I've been through the same thing.
So, if you're not eating your friends, what are you doing together?
We play games all the time at lunch, and if Yancy's not there, because Yancy wasn't at school yesterday or Friday, so I got a bit bored.
Oh, it's the worst when your best friend's away, isn't it?
I play with them, and then I care about them, and then I sit next to them in class, and then I sometimes whisper to them in class.
My best friend is Vedant. We are neighbors.
Your neighbours? So, is he so close that you can just walk to his house?
I can walk to my house.
That's great. So, you've got like a friend that's just like right there all the time when you want to play.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very handy. My friend lives really far away, so I have to get in the car, I have to put petrol in, I have to drive there, then I get stuck in traffic, and it's so boring. So now here's the big question. Have you ever eaten one of your friends?
No! I've never eaten one of my friends! Are you crazy?
I'll never eat someone because there's going to be too much blood.
If you had to eat one of your friends, who would you eat?
My most annoying friend.
A person is really, really annoying and always tells on me only on really little problems. Like, I made a mistake and it was not even his business, he would tell on me.
Ugh, that person definitely deserves eating. If you had to, which friend would you eat?
The one that is nearer to me.
Oh, so it's about like logical space.
Yeah.
So at the moment that would be me. Okay, I suggest you don't eat any of your friends because at the moment I'm the person closest to you.
Yeah.
So if you did have to eat one of your friends, who would you eat?
My little brother.
Do you have just one brother or you have more brothers and
One.
sisters? Just one?
Yeah.
Well, see, then you'd be all alone. Plus he might taste like, maybe he tastes like broccoli.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like broccoli?
No.
No. And little brothers often taste like broccoli, so let's not eat your little brother. If you did eat your friend, what do you think they would taste like?
Blue cheese.
Like on chicken.
Like meat.
All right, so finally, how many stars would you give this book?
100.
I was gonna give it 10 stars.
About 3.5.
3.5?
I mean 2.5.
2.5, okay. Why 2.5 stars?
Just because I like and don't like the part when he ate the monster at the end, but then I like the first part when he says like, I just ate my friend. I like that part.
Okay, so you approve of some of the eating, but not all of the eating. All right, so how many stars would you give this book?
5.
Out of?
5.
5 out of 5?
5. Like kind of 98.
Okay, guys, I know you have some questions for Heidi McKinnon, so what do you want to ask?
I am Aisha. I am 6 years old and I will turn 7 on April 15. And why would you eat your friend?
Hi, Aisha. I'm not really sure why anyone would actually eat their friend, and I don't know anyone who has eaten their friend. And I personally have never eaten one of my friends. However, some type of monsters get really hungry, and sometimes they may eat one of their friends. But I don't think it's a very good idea to eat your friend because friends are very important, and it's much better if you look after them, not eat them.
My name is Vikram. My age is 7. And my question is, why did you show the first friend who got eaten by the yellow person? I want to see him.
Okay, so why didn't I show the first monster that got eaten by the yellow monster? Well, the first friend who was eaten, we thought he was way too scary looking to put in the book, so we decided to leave him out.
My name is Jonty. I'm 6. And why didn't the blue bug give a excuse and just said no?
Hi, Jonty. Good question. Well, the blue bug is pretty grumpy, and I think he was having a very bad day when he saw the yellow monster. I think he was also a little bit cranky because he was included in the book at the very last minute because I needed to add 2 extra pages. So I don't think he could really think of anything else to say except for no. But I kind of like him though. He's pretty straightforward, funny looking, although perhaps he could have been a little bit more polite to the yellow guy.
My name is Cindy and I am 6.5. Why did the green monster eat the yellow monster instead of the yellow monster eating the green monster?
Hi, Cindy. Well, the yellow monster was so happy to finally find a friend that I think he completely forgot he was a friend-eating monster. And also, the yellow monster was really sad that he ate his good friend in the beginning. So he had learnt that a good friend is pretty hard to find and it's much better not to eat them.
My name is Ridaman. I'm 7 years old. My question is, where did you make this book?
Hi, Ridaman. I wrote the words at home in Melbourne while my daughter was having a nap one day. And then I drew all the pictures in my studio where I work. And it took a fair while to make and ended up being a lot different than the first original version. And all up, it took about a year to make.
My name's Annabelle. I'm 7 years old. And I just wanted to ask how you came up with the ideas for your book.
When I was growing up, I had a really awesome grandfather and he was a really cool storyteller. And he used to tell me stories about creatures that lived in the mountains, that ate children. And I grew up in the country and I loved listening to his scary stories. He would tell them by an open fire at nighttime. And then I was never able to go to sleep because I was imagining weird mountain monsters outside. So I think maybe perhaps those stories from my childhood really influenced this book, considering it's about monsters that eat other monsters.
Kids Capers!
Wow, that was fantastic, Nat. I really enjoyed that, especially the kids' questions. Like, you know, it's amazing to sort of see what are the things that stand out for a kid when they're reading a picture book, because sometimes they're so different to what stands out to an adult, or, you know.
Yeah, and it totally, like, it didn't make the cut, but there was one girl that I asked her, like, oh, what's this book about? And she explained the book to me, like, literally page by page. Like, okay, well, there's a monster and he does this, and then he talks to this monster, and that monster says this, and the reason that he gives is this, and then he went to the other monster, the monster looks like this, and then she explained, like, the whole book. We went for like 7 minutes. It was so great. And I was like, well, now I don't have to read it. Perfect.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I loved it too. The kids were adorable and hilarious. I think I'm going to really enjoy Kids Capers. I already do.
Of course you will. It's my segment. It's going to be awesome.
Definitely. So our next section is a listener question. So since we launched on social media, we've been lucky enough to get a lot of response and a lot of interaction, and we've actually scored ourselves a listener question. So our first question comes from Penny in Melbourne. She has 3 kids aged 11, 9 and 7.
So let's see what she wants to know.
Hi, my name's Penny. I'm from Mount Eliza in Victoria, and my question is, what was the first chapter book you read all by yourself?
Awesome question. I'm actually really glad that Penny asked this question, because I've had a little bit of time to think about it and I had forgotten all about this book. But now I've actually gone out and ordered it online to give to my own 6-year-old, and it's called No Flying in the House by Betty Brock. And I'm super excited that it's still in print. It's about a little girl who doesn't have any parents, and instead she's looked after by this tiny talking dog who's about 3 inches high. Then one day a little cat arrives, a nasty, wicked cat, and tells the girl, Annabelle, that she's actually part fairy, and it completely turns her life upside down.
Oh my gosh, it's like the first Harry Potter.
Yes.
You're a fairy, Betty Brock.
Yeah, except it was a cat instead of like a giant shaggy
man bear.
Yeah.
I don't remember this book. I missed out. Totally missed out on this one.
Seriously, check it out. I was so excited to find it was still around, because so many things I read when I was younger, you know, they're not all still around. And this one's still getting plenty of 5-star reviews on Goodreads, I'd say.
Well, you should, seeing you've ordered, I think you should bring it into us afterwards so we can catch up on your childhood.
No worries.
We can work out what made you so weird and twisted.
Yeah, it's really a sweet and lovely book, which might explain my personality.
Excuse me.
Moving on.
Liz, so tell us all about what your first chapter is.
Okay, so I have trouble remembering the specific book, so I might just have to tell you about a few. One of them would have to be Amelia Jane by Enid Blyton. I was obsessed with Enid Blyton, as so many people were, but I remember loving that, and I've actually still got that on my shelf, so I might have to bring that in as well if anyone wants to have a read. It's got a nice vintage cover. And then the other things I read when I first started reading chapter books were mystery series, so things like Nancy Drew and Trixie Belden. I just poured through all of those and just love those.
Matt, you and I, like, we must have had the same bookshelf when we were about that age, I think, because I had heaps of Trixie Belden, Nancy Drew and Amelia Jane. Did you know that Nancy Drew was written by a whole lot of different authors?
No.
Yeah, they had like a pseudonym going. So it's I can't remember who is on the cover, but it's not just one person. It's like a whole stable of the publishers, you know, in-house authors. So it's pretty much a different author every episode kind of thing.
So our whole childhood was a lie.
It was all a lie. That's
well,
right.
I can't say I'm entirely surprised. But I don't think that I'm going to have to bring in my first read to you guys, because I'm pretty sure you've already had a look at it. So when I was in prep, I had this teacher called Miss Aliotti, and she was the greatest teacher on the planet. I believe she's still teaching and is still the greatest teacher on the planet. So Miss Aliotti, if you're out there, I just wanted to say I love you. Anyway, she used to read the BFG to us. I think it was like, you know, like Friday afternoons for a couple of hours, read the BFG, a couple of pages every day or whatever. So it must have taken her like 8 years to get through the book. And I remember thinking that I wanted that to be the first book I ever read by myself. And so it was. So, yep, BFG, Roald Dahl.
Yeah, that's
an
some
awesome
serious
first book.
It's a great first book, although I think, you know, like, it's a little bit of a challenge because there are so many words in it that are just completely invented by Roald Dahl.
Yeah, well, I like a little bit of a challenge. Don't take the easy route, you know. Forget Enid Blyton. War and Peace, first book off the shelf. Straight to the top. No, I remember thinking that it was just the greatest book in the world, and I couldn't wait to be good enough to read it by myself.
So now it's time for our next segment, which is called What's on Our Radar. This is a snapshot of something we're obsessing over or looking forward to. And this time we're going to hear from Kate. So Kate, what's on your radar right now?
What's on my radar this week is actually another podcast. It's out of the US. It's been around for a while, so some listeners might have heard of it, but I'm only just discovering it right now. It's called The Unexplainable Disappearance of Mars Patel, and it's a serialized drama, so basically a radio play, but by a podcast. It's aimed at a middle grade audience, upper primary aged kids, and it's about a group of kids whose friends suddenly start disappearing. The show has had one series. It's up to series 2 already, but as I said, I'm only just discovering it, so I've listened to the first couple of episodes and I'm really keen to get into more. It's fantastic.
Yeah, cool. I'm actually listening to that at the moment too. I think I'm up to episode 7 or something like that.
Hooray. Enjoying?
Yeah, I actually really like it, and I really like how there's a character in it who runs this fake school as part of the show, and if you go to the website of the podcast, it's the website of the fake school. So it's it's interactive, and it's something, kids can go into competitions within the school and stuff. And it's got really cool sound design as well. All the sound effects and the way that it's put together is very, very clever.
Definitely check it out, everyone.
Well, we have some good news and some bad news.
Oh no, what's that?
Good news is we survived our first episode!
Hooray!
Bad news is it's over.
Oh,
shame. You know what? We should do another one in about a fortnight. What do you reckon?
Perfect. I'm on.
Okay, well, if you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate it if you could take the time to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And what's coming up on our next episode, Liz?
So next time we're going to be talking illustrations with the talented Nikki Johnston. And in Kids Capers, we'll find out what happened when Nat found an intriguing machine at a garage sale. You'll have to listen to find out more.
Oh no, does that mean it's over?
No, we want one more page.
Yeah, it does. But join us next fortnight for
One more page.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Page. Read the show notes and find all our episodes at www.onemorepagepodcast.com. Don't forget, you can also subscribe via the iTunes Store or your favourite podcast app.
We love to receive listener questions and hear any kids' book news or reading recommendations. Chat with us on our Facebook page or find us on Twitter and Instagram at OneMorePageAU. You can also email us at onemorepagepodcast@gmail.com.
A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our illustrations. That's it from us this time, but we hope you can join us next time for one more episode of One More Page.
Congratulations for those of you who stuck around, because you're in on a secret. This is One More Page recording bloopers. Shh! Don't tell Kate and Liz I put this in. This is Liz having a laughing fit during recording.
I think I'm going to cry, laughing cry. Oh my God.
Okay, we're just going to give a moment while Liz gathers herself together. Just some thinking music. Ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh. No, she's still laughing. Cut! 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 There's no cutting. This is live recording, Liz. Come on, you can do it. And now we're throwing to Liz with our latest guest interview. Liz.
We're going to have to cut.
Okay, seriously, we're going to have to cut.
This is Liz, almost choking during recording.
Especially the whole invention aspect. I love that sound of the characters and their inventions in the book.
Have a cough. It's okay. You can stop on your cough. You don't actually have to say cut. When I'm editing it and you're choking, I know to stop.
And this is me just not being able to speak properly.
A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our illustrations. That's it for us. A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our... Oh my God. A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our illustrations. That's it from us this time, but we hope you can join us next week for one more page. No, not next week. A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our illustrations. That's it from us this time, but we hope you can join... No. A big thank you to Marianne Koo, who does all of our illustrations. That's his... Oh, you know what? I'm going to record this at home.
Okay.